Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Diversity and Inclusion panel event. Today with us, we have Chang Tan from SEO London and Elton Pardas from Migrant Leaders. So for the first question, I just wanted to start off by giving a brief overview from SEO London and Migrant Leaders. So Chang, could you please briefly introduce SEO London to the students here, and who is your program aimed at, and how do you support those people with your programs?
Sure. Thank you very much, Nicola, for inviting us here today. So my name is Chang Tan. I'm from an organization called SEO London. We are a charity. We have our roots in the New York program, which started in 1963 off the back of the civil rights movement. And that was really meant to help students from underprivileged sort of backgrounds get into good universities. And what happened at that time was that while they were very successful in doing that, what they realized was that students, even though they could get into good universities, they were not really getting into the jobs. So in 1980, they curated the careers program, and that was meant to help students break into the toughest industry to break into at that time. And that was none other than Wall Street. So today, the program is still very, very successful in the US. Anyone coming from a Black or Latinx background working on Wall Street, chances are they'll be affiliated or know of the SEO USA program. Our current CEO and founder of the program at SEO London, Andrew, he went through the program himself in 1995 in New York. And with that, he started his career at UBS and with Deutsche. And he came to London in the year 2000 at the time with Deutsche Bank. And he thought, why not set up the very same thing here in London? So in that very first year, there were 7 interns across 5 banks. And that program grew and grew and grew since. So I am an alumnus of the program myself. I did it in 2005, where thanks to SEO London, I was very fortunate in that time to get an internship at JP Morgan. And off the back of that, I joined Lehman Brothers in 2006. I don't know whether you guys still know Lehman Brothers, but it went bust spectacularly in 2008, where I was very fortunate. I managed to go over to Nomura for another 6 years. So in banking for close to 8 years. Then I decided to do something different. And that something different ended up being SEO London. So I've been with the organization for the past 5+ years, looking after a variety of programs here. But in short, when I came back today, 2021, 21 years later since Andrew founded the program, it has grown and grown and grown since. So I mentioned in that very first year, there were 7 interns. In my year, there were probably about 100, just over 100 of us within banking. Today, we support thousands of students across a whole range of industries. So not just within banking, but across asset management, consulting, corporate law, corporates, technology, and insurance. Lots of different opportunities for students. We work with over 120 different sponsor firms, from the likes of Goldman Sachs to Google to McKinsey, to our latest program, which is on the AIP, the Alternative Investments Program, where we're working with all the BlackRocks, the Carlyles, the KKRs, all the big names that students are well aware of. As a charity, we support students from 3 main areas of underrepresentation. So the first is from a BAME background. So if you are an ethnic minority student, we can support you. Second, if you are of a low social mobility, regardless of ethnicity, we can help you. And the third and final one is from a gender perspective. So anyone who identifies as female, given all of these groups are still very underrepresented in the industries we work in. So the essence is that we think of ourselves as a sort of more training, development, networking outfit, given we are running lots of events every day, just to help students break into these elite industries. Okay.
Thank you very much on that. And Malcolm, could you briefly introduce the Migrant Leaders and who is that program aimed at?
Thank you so much. Chang, I have to say, what an inspirational story you have. I really enjoyed hearing your presentation and your story. Thank you for that. And in terms of what I do, my background is that I come from a migrant background. I have spent 23 years as a finance and transformation director in GE, News Corp, and Ernst & Young. And then something happened. Back in 2017, the Parker Review was published in the UK, which looked at the ethnic diversity of UK boardrooms. And the numbers looked even worse than I expected. And I felt compelled to do something, because I really had expected that in 20-25 years, young people shouldn't have experienced the challenges that I experienced, and yet they are experiencing it. Furthermore, recently, the Institute for Fiscal Studies in the UK also echoed what Chang said, which was happening in the US. It is happening in the UK, that second generation migrants far exceed the academic performance of their white counterparts, but despite that, find it very difficult to find employment and move up the ladder. And that just doesn't make sense. That is a straight loss to the economy. It is a loss from a humanity point of view, and it further reinforces what we do at Migrant Leaders. So Migrant Leaders is a charity that I launched 3.5 years ago, registered with the Charity Commission in the UK. And in the last 3.5 years, we've been working very, very hard. And I've been very lucky to have the support of all the corporates and others that have supported our charity. And where we are today is that Migrant Leaders provides a free development program for first and second generation young migrants, as well as all disadvantaged young people across Britain. It is for 16 to 25-year-olds, and they can apply to our free program, which will mean that they get matched with one of our 700 senior mentors from 95 FTSE 100 and leading firms, and they get matched based on their technical aspirations, based on their sector aspirations, and based on their development needs, which we get to discover during the application process, and we get to know the mentees better during our development program. So we match them to the right mentor, and some amazing stories have come about from those connections and mentoring relationships. And we also train the young mentees through our workshops, webinars, conferences, internships, and work experiences, which we develop with our corporate partners. Just this week, I was at ABB, and we're about to release a 3-minute highlights video of the internship that we delivered with ABB, the leading engineering company, for 6 of our top migrant engineering students. And our other corporate partners we've worked deeply with and collaborated deeply with over the last 3 years are Anglo-American, Smith & Nephew, and Kantar. It's been a whirlwind and continues to be. I keep saying to my team, we are going to be, within the next 12 months, we will be business as usual, BAU state. And I think we have so much passion and ambition for what Migrant Leaders can do for these young people. I think we are a few years away from what you would call BAU. And I'm delighted to say that, because really I want and I am determined that we would help these young people. And for as long as they give us their trust and passion and aspirations, we're here to help them fulfill their potential.
Thank you so much for that, both of you. I thought it was really interesting, and I really enjoyed hearing your stories.
Thank you.
So, just many of our members come from more underrepresented backgrounds or diverse backgrounds, and so they may look into getting involved into the programs that Migrant Leaders or SEO London offer. And so, starting with Alham, how can they maximize the services you provide to fully leverage their background into success?
So first of all, I would say don't underestimate the power of connections. You know, in my generation, particularly from my ethnical background, I wouldn't be generalizing too much if I said that people from my ethnicity, their parents always told them, if you're talented, hardworking, and you have integrity, you will succeed. And that's true. We've got to have talent, hard work, and integrity. But my goodness, it is not enough in order to fulfill your potential. So connections, insight, advice, and sponsorship, someone senior vouching for you, is so powerful. And that's what Migrant Leaders gives them. So anybody between 16 and 25 from underrepresented backgrounds, either first or second generation migrant, or if from any ethnicity from disadvantaged backgrounds, which eligibility criteria we have put in our website, migrantleaders.org.uk, I would encourage them to apply as a candidate and to get into the process of migrant leaders. I would really encourage that. Above that, beyond migrant leaders, I would say select what you get involved with very carefully, because if opportunities were the limiting factor of my generation, I think focus might be the limiting factor of the next generation. I notice my own children, they get involved and listen to and watch everything. And you've got to select your influences, select programs you get involved with. Both organizations being represented here today are fantastic. I'm very impressed by Chang's story and his organization. So select one or two organizations you get involved with, and really focus on the plan that you've devised for your future.
All right, thank you so much. And how about you, Chang? How can everyone maximize the services SEO London provides to obviously leverage their background into success?
Sure. So as Elham mentioned, I think a lot of it is really the student has to, we think about it this way, we provide the water and we try and bring you all the way to the water, but we can't force you to drink it. So you will have to take that action ultimately yourself, but we try and provide it to you. Our policy is that, what do we call it? I think talent is unlimited, but opportunities are limited. So we are trying to open up that opportunity to the students. So we tell students, if you fall into one of the categories where we can support you, i.e. if you're from an ethnic minority background, low social mobility regardless of ethnicity, as well as gender, what you should do is register with SEO London. And then you will get access to our candidate portal, to our weekly newsletter. You will see a lot of emails coming from us. So I think we generally, I think, spam a little bit. Sometimes we send out a lot of information. But the best students will actually religiously read everything that we send out and grab the opportunities that's provided for them. So for example, we know that lots of our students want to go into finance. And I presume at UCL, everyone is talking about finance, even though that might not be the right path for everyone, but that's the field on campus. If you don't get a spring week, you don't get a summer internship, your life is a failure, which is not. I want to reiterate that, but that's the feeling you get. And what we want to do, we know that September is usually when applications open. And now is the summer, a lot of students are going out, doing whatever they want to do, but we also know that it's difficult. We have had students who come from the various backgrounds I mentioned, who come to us and say, I don't know anyone in the industry, I don't have any knowledge, I don't know where to start. So essentially what we are doing is we are giving that knowledge and the networks. So in July and August, we are running our Step Into programs, where every single day we are running some sort of event. So Mondays, we run things related to insurance. We run mock assessment centers from 1 to 5 p.m. to a select group of students. Tuesdays, we run banking related events. So anyone who wants to go into IBD, M&A, it's on Tuesdays. Wednesdays, we run things related to corporates and technology. Thursdays, we run things related to markets. Fridays, we run yoga in the morning, which I lead. And then we also have consulting. And then in the evening, on Friday evenings, we have speed networking sessions. So every single day of the week in July and August, we are running a whole series of events. And if you are not participating in this, well, I guess it's a big loss for the students who can't make full use of this opportunity, because as we mentioned, if you do the two things, or if you come every single day, and we encourage students to come every single day, do not be fixated by the point that I only want to do IBD and I will only show up on Tuesday, because that's not how it works. We see IBD might not be suited for everyone, and it's always good to keep an open mind and learn more about all the different industries. So we say if you come every single day for 2 months, I can guarantee you there's no way you can tell me that you didn't know about anything or you don't know anyone, because we literally serve it up on the plate to you. Today, we are just running a consulting session, which is just wrapping up right now. We have, I think, a consultant from Strategy N and a consultant from McKinsey coming to walk the students through a case study practice. So that's already very, very good knowledge. Later on at 4 to 5:15 p.m., we have a speed networking session where we invite about 65 students So all of these students who are interested in IBD, and we are gathering about 18 firm reps. So all 18 are our alumni and industry professionals who will all spend 10 minutes. We'll split them into breakout rooms, and every 10 minutes we'll rotate them amongst around to talk to the students. So these are some of the examples of things that we are running every single day of the week. So there's no reason why students should not benefit from it. And this is the intensive thing that we do, but throughout the year, we also be doing lots of things. So I think sometimes I become a full-time events management person. We are just figuring out a lot of things that we are trying to do to help the students. So ultimately, we say, do not miss out on these opportunities.
Thank you on that. From my personal experience, I can vouch for the step into programs. They help me so much. And now just to further expand on that, Chang, actually, so people come into to SEO and they want to go, let's say, to investment banking, but they don't know how to actually do it. They don't know if they're a good pick for that actually. So what are some important ways that are actually an underrepresented person needs in order to succeed, to break into the industry and to later actually be successful in it? How can I actually develop those traits as well?
So I think first, I think is the awareness. So you don't know what you don't know, right? So the first thing is try and find out more. And sometimes the more you find out, the more scary it can become. So if you come to one of the Tuesday sessions, for example, where I think the other day they were talking about valuations and comparables. And when you come for those sessions, you might have absolutely no idea of it. And it might sound very scary, and even more scary when people start asking all of these crazy questions where they obviously know a lot more than you. And you think, oof, this is very, very scary. But if you are interested, the best students will actually start thinking, okay, I don't know all of this. I will go and research and find out what that is all about. The internet nowadays is so easy for you to find out things. So there's, again, no excuses for not knowing things. So that knowledge is very important. So the first thing is try and find out, figure out, okay, do as much research as possible. And again, if you attend our sessions, that's where we try and provide you with the knowledge. And then the second thing that you mentioned is also about the networks, which I think Alha mentioned as well. In life, everything is about network, what you realize. And I think why we are trying to help our students from underrepresented backgrounds is they don't have those networks. We are trying to level the playing field. So if you want to break into the industry, talking to people is the first thing. When you try and apply, you are lost in a whole sea of applications. Every year, there are thousands, tens of thousands of people applying. Goldman Sachs has what, 250,000 applicants a year. Google has 3 million applicants a year. So if you just apply and you put yourself through the process, you might just get lost given the sheer volume of them. But if you know how to do a little bit extra, taking the extra work, going on LinkedIn, speaking to people from UCL, reaching out, even doing events like this. I think Charlotte and Nicola, when you're organizing these events, you get to meet people in the industry, in the profession as well. And if you run this well, people will be impressed. So it's all about doing all these little things and then reaching out and maintaining relationships with people to break into industry. And that takes a lot of hard work and discipline. So I think my advice for the students, you go on LinkedIn, it's actually quite nowadays on LinkedIn, everywhere you see is people self-congratulating themselves. I have graduated with first class, I graduated this and that, super well done to me. Then they will also say, I have joined this bank, I've joined this, I've joined that, and so on. And you think, wow, you might think, okay, this is, how did these people get there? Or why are all these people getting there and I'm not getting there? But what you need to realize is that all these people also work incredibly hard behind the scenes. So you don't know the amount of hard work they put in to get where they are. So if you want to achieve or you want to succeed in anything, it comes with lots of hard work. So that's my long-winded way of answering you.
Definitely, thank you for that. Taking notes as well. So Alcom, what is the quality that you think allows for migrants to actually succeed here in
I think Chang and I are very like-minded people, because it hardly ever happens that I actually agree with everything someone says. And I actually agree with everything Chang just said. Really excellent advice. So I'll try and provide something a little bit additional to that. If we take a step back, and I think the same considerations apply to all outsiders, all underrepresented backgrounds. Migrants are just a subsection of being an outsider, being underrepresented. So this applies to everyone, really. If you take a step back and look at the recruitment funnel, it looks like something like this. And if you do the things that Chang absolutely outlined, and I agree, there is no excuse for not doing your research. Everything is out there. Yes, so doing your research moves you down the funnel to about here. But you still might get kicked out of the recruitment process at that point and not get through, because competition is tough. What gets you from here to here is your ability, your technical achievements, and the research and preparation you've done. But what gets you from here to the actual job is your competitive advantage or differentiation. And what I find is that what makes you differentiated as a candidate, in addition to all of those things, is some bespoke mentoring, bespoke coaching by someone senior from that firm, which is what Migrant Leaders provides, so that they can get in. An example of that is one of my own mentees, Luke, who came from a background, grew up in London, African migrant parents. His background wasn't the typical background that ends up in EY. I mentored him for 4 years, and long story short, through his own talent and hard work and a bit of coaching and mentoring from me, he's now a year and a half into his graduate role at EY, and he's going to do phenomenally well at EY, and he'll be an asset. And that's really the differentiator, was the bespoke coaching about what it takes to get the EY internship, what it takes to get the EY graduate job. So coaching, mentorship from that firm, and also the connections. For example, many companies have referral schemes. If your mentor or your sponsor from Migrant Leaders is already in that firm, and you have built a strong relationship with your mentor, your Migrant Leaders mentor, then he or she would be in a position to recommend you for that role. That already moves you in the funnel from here right to here. And then if you do your job during the recruitment process, it's pretty much a done deal, you know? So you have to think strategically about these things. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your advice. I think it's pretty helpful, and I think a lot of people can make use of it. And so obviously you guys already talked a lot about opportunities, but the people that you represent often find it harder to find work experience and might come from like really underrepresented backgrounds where they didn't really have any opportunities growing up to even get any experience and just had no opportunities really. And so how can they really overcome that obstacle and still stand out in the internship application process?
For me, I would say, and I have a little story to share here, humility. Don't ever miss out on opportunities because you feel too embarrassed, shy, or heaven forbid, arrogant to ask for the opportunity. Humility really helps. Don't be afraid to fail. Rejection with internships and jobs is not failure. You know, there is a naturally high rejection rate even for the best candidates. So don't see rejection in your applications as failure. It's actually an opportunity. I know it's a bit of a cliche to say this. I remember when I was 16 years old, growing up as a young migrant in Birmingham, the list of work experience options my school dished out were okay, but there were not jobs that I wanted to do, like a hairdresser or working at the post office, and they were not things I wanted to do. I had slightly different ideas. Wasn't sure what, but I had different ideas. So I decided I will go to a really posh area called Harborne in Birmingham, and I knocked on every bank and said, hello, my name is Elham and I'm 16 years old, and can you give me 1 week work experience? And NatWest, the manager actually in NatWest Harborne High Street branch, gave me a 1 week work experience, and he himself and his team rotated me in all the jobs in NatWest for that week. That really was the first time I realized, even though I love science and maths, actually finance and banking could be a career. I'm loving their environment. It's kind of what Chang said. You don't know until you give it a try. So don't be shy. Don't be afraid of rejection, and just go for it. You've got everything to go for.
Yeah, that's amazing advice by Alham. And I think, yes, whenever we see somebody who is 16 and has the initiative to actually go and do something gutsy like that, right? That's how you stand out, right? As you said, in the process, you have to stand out in a good way. There are simple little things now in the virtual environment. I know it's a bit more difficult. It's tough to find a job. Even in the past, when we work with so many students, we tell them, getting a job over the summer, even if it's a simple job like a retail job, think about the metrics of success, because that is incredibly important. So don't, in your CV, when you write there you have worked in McDonald's, and you think working in McDonald's might not be useful at all for any job I want to apply for in the corporate sector. But if in your CV you can tell me that you woke up every morning at 5 a.m. to do the 6 to 9 a.m. or the 6 to 10 a.m. shift, and you served over 300 members of the public very efficiently, and you were awarded the top performer in your branch for 2 years running, and now you manage a team of 5 other staff. Telling me all of those things would be a lot more impressive than telling me you attended an Insight Day at Goldman Sachs. Because guess what? You would have learned so much more skills working for those 3 years compared to a 1 day which you just sit behind a screen. So don't be afraid of the actual real life experiences that you might have. And I think for a lot of the underrepresented groups, you might have to work because you need to go and find ways to support yourself. So do not disregard a lot of these opportunities. So that's important. And the second thing, I think when you show up for this kind of events, I know today's session is relatively small, but Suhaib is the only person with his camera turned on. I have no idea what the other people are doing. I don't know whether they are watching Netflix and listening on this and so on. Whatever they are doing, Suhaib is the only person who has made a positive impression on us in the audience here. So simple things like this. And we always say when you go to any event, virtual networking, and you can observe this for yourself, lots of people don't bother turning on their cameras, they don't bother interacting, they don't bother asking questions. And whoever is in the room running these events, you are observing, you are listening, and you are seeing who is going to stand out. And the simplest way to stand out is turn on your cameras, react, and then when the time comes to ask questions, put your hands up, ask a question. And if you ask a good question, that's the easiest way to get noticed. I know it's a bit difficult. If I were in your shoes in a big audience, I wouldn't really dare put up my hand, but again, practice. So the more you do it, the better off you become. And so, hey, trust me, when you go back to school, when uni starts, I don't know whether next term you guys will still be stuck in this virtual environment, which I think you are, but just keep in mind when you look up in any of your lectures, see how many people turn on their cameras, how many people ask questions. The next time, every time your lecture, you keep turning on your camera, you keep asking questions, introducing yourself, asking your questions, your professors, anyone will remember who you are, and they will think of you favorably.
You know, Chang, one of the things that is going to help them be motivated to do that is reminding themselves of their purpose, why they need to do this. In my case, I always joke, I always say I'm an introvert pretending to be an extrovert. I actually, you may not realize, I actually feel a little bit shy talking about what I do, feel a little bit shy saying why the charity is great and what we've achieved. And but I always remind myself that my purpose is to help as many young people as possible. I remind myself of the wonderful young people we work with, the impact the charity has, and reminding yourself of your purpose takes the shyness a little bit away and the discomfort a little bit away, and makes you much more driven, and you then hopefully will feel more inclined to do what you know you got to do.
Exactly.
Thank you both on that. And now just to go back a little bit, many people actually just use these organizations such as SEO and Migrant Leaders, land a job, and then they actually forget about everything. Same is for networking. They network their way into the job, then they forget what they can give back. So how can we actually, the students who actually watch this after, how can they actually get in leaders to promote equal opportunities, to promote these organizations?
So for migrant leaders, at least, I can say that our program is actually a program that you join somewhere between 16 and 25, and you don't become an alumni, you don't leave the program until you've landed your first professional job. And even then, you stay involved with the charity if you wish, as a mentor, as an ambassador, and so on. So we take a rather bespoke approach in developing our young people to give each one of them exactly what's missing so that we help them get the results that they want in the industry and the roles that they want. So it's quite a journey for our program participants.
And likewise at SEO London, similar to what Elham is doing, I think the Alumni Keys is also very important. What we always encourage the students is that once we welcome you to the SEO family, you are in the SEO family for life. So it's like Hotel California, you can't check out. But essentially, what that means is that I think we really want to showcase to the students, and even when I think about it in my own career, it probably didn't strike me as early on that, again, later on in life, everything in life is about connections. It's really that. You really need to just bear that in mind. If you have very good connections, it'll bring you very far in life. And SEO London, when we think about all the training and the things that we provide, sometimes it's also about bringing people together and forming that close-knit community. So what students will notice is that I mentioned, I think this summer alone, for our Step Into programs, we are probably bringing about 150 different alumni and industry professionals back to try and help those that come after them. And this is always the motto of SEO London. We are not here, we are not a recruitment agency, we are not here to help you find a job and then that's it. What we expect of you is that now that we have helped you get into the industry, it is then your duty to turn around and help those that come after you. Or else this problem of underrepresentation will never ever go away. And I think this is best illustrated by the fact that I mentioned in the very first year, we had 7 interns across 5 banks. There was one girl, she interned at Goldman Sachs in the year 2000. Today, she is a partner at Goldman Sachs and she sits on the board of SEO London. And she was instrumental in creating a lot of programs to provide all the opportunities for everyone that is coming after her now. So that is the expectation we have for every single student that we are helping out. So it's not just about you, it's those that come after you. And you should then spread that message and help.
Thank you so much for that. And now actually on to our last question from Nicola and I before we open up the questions to the floor and the audience. And so finally, what advice, or like final advice do you have for underrepresented people here with us, for the underrepresented people here with us today? Should we start with Ellen?
Yeah, I would say shift your thinking about your disadvantages and underrepresentation. Often I notice that if you start any activity, any pursuit, any endeavor from a position of weakness, thinking yourself as having some weakness, you're not going to be at your best. You're not going to think of solutions. The moment you hit a hurdle, you give up because you inherently believe you're destined to fail. That's not the way to think about it. And the beauty of this thing is that if you say something enough number of times to yourself, you start believing it. So if you believe me when I tell you that you need to think that you will succeed and you're destined to succeed, and I ask you to believe in that even if you don't think it's true, and act as if it is true, then you are going to find that you will approach everything and every opportunity and everybody you meet very differently. And the reality actually is that the disadvantages, the adversities that you have gone through actually have built you. They haven't broken you. You will be the more determined, more hungry for success for it. You will be a more interesting problem solver because you've seen more stuff. You bring wider perspectives, which many firms these days, particularly STEM employers, desperately need in order to have competitive advantage. So actually, you're advantaged even without knowing it.
Well, thank you on that.
Yeah, if not, also Shang can give his final advice. I think he didn't have the chance to add his final advice.
No, not at all. I think Elham covered it very, very well. I think, again, the way to think about it, it's tough, right? So I know it's incredibly competitive. It's incredibly difficult when you look at it and you think, wow, so many people are applying, so many people appear so good. But what we say is if you keep trying and keep trying and keep trying, and if you don't give up, you will get there somehow. I think both Elham and myself, we have seen this process long enough to know that it's very, very unlikely, it's very, very difficult for you, for the audience in this room. You're all studying at UCL, you're all smart, you have worked very hard to get to UCL. The probability of you ending up unemployed is incredibly slim if you put hard work into it. So even though it might not look like it at this point in time, you just to have faith, and you just need to put in the hard work. The application process, the networking process, the way you learn about something can be very daunting. It can look very difficult, but think back to this advice. So I was very fortunate that I think I went to Bhutan many years ago, and I was with my friend, and we were in this meditation hall, and there was this monk sitting there, and my friend asked the monk, how do you master the art of meditation? How do you do it? Then the monk very wisely turned around and said, there are 3 steps. Number 1, study. Number 2, understand. Number 3, practice. So it sounds very simple, no? But it sounds very wise coming from a monk in Bhutan in a faraway place. And I went back and I told my mom the same thing. I said, those are the 3 steps. Then she said, haven't I been telling you that my whole life? So we don't listen. It sounds better coming from a monk far away. But if you apply this to anything you do in your life, if you apply those 3 steps, studying, making sure you put in the hard work, understanding what you're doing, not just studying for the sake of studying, and then practice. Keep practicing and all is coming. That's my key tip.
Well, thank you again for taking out your time to speak to us, both Chang and Elham. I really do believe that if we get only a couple of people done our job to actually apply to these organizations, and who knows, maybe we'll get another board on another board bracket who will help in the future generations. So thank you again, and that's it from us.